Hello, fellow oil painters. Hope you're well. I'm doing a few short demonstrations, so I thought I'd let you join me in my studio today. I've got this picture which has been painted maybe a couple of years ago. It's just a quick sketch, as you can see, suggesting a rocky shore, maybe a bit of sea, some weather. And because it's dry, it's a fantastic painting to demonstrate some simple glazing on. I'll show you how glazing works in a traditional sense. Where's to my palette? Get my painting to cooperate. So I've got some modern mediums. This is called Galkyd. It's an alkyd resin. Many alkyds exist. That's my preference, but I'm not sponsored by Mr. Gamblin, good as he is. And this is its solvent, which is called Gamsol. If you mix the both together, you get a 50-50 medium, which I use all the time. What I tend to do is keep it in big bottles, pre-mixed. I've got one here, as you can see. It's an old Gamsol bottle full of medium. That's ready use then, isn't it? So I'm going to take this medium. It's a very simple medium on a reasonably clean brush. Don't take too much of it, just a whiff of it. And just lubricate the brush. And the first thing I'm going to do is just spread that over the painting. This is what painters call a couch. Oil painters, traditional oil painters. It's often conflated with oiling out or oiling in. But for glazing purposes, we're making a couch or a thin layer of medium. And what you'll notice is the darks get darker because they're being richer. It's like a varnish. I'll move the camera across slightly for you. The darks get darker and richer, and the lights don't really change, except the depth increases. You want a very thin layer of medium for this. And it's not very dramatic, because all you're really doing is you're preparing the surface to take some paint. Test it with your fingers. If it feels like a thin, viscous lubrication rather than a drippy mess, you're good to go. So I'm going to take some blue paint now. I've got quite a few blues here. I've got some warm blue, ultramarine blue. I've got some cool blue. I think I'll start today with maybe a warm blue. Again, I'll coat the edge of the brush with it, just the bristles. This is not knife painting, you don't need much. In fact, in most painting, it's fair to say you need less than you think. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is just address this picture with the flat of the brush. And where the blue goes over the orange, of course, it's going to create a smoky grey, because blue and orange are a complement. You always want the initial glaze to be bigger than you need it. So even though I want some of this orange for later, in the first instance, I'm going to cover it with the thinnest veil of paint. There's lots of ways of doing this, but this is a simple way. Nice, straightforward way. And because light tends to cover everything, normally oil painters would paint the entire picture with the local colour of the light. In this case, the local of the light will be blue. And then we add more colours to the painting. You can probably see that the blue paint is also killing the contrast. It's starting to kill the difference or the range in the painting. Let's get a bit more glaze on the brush because it's getting quite dry. I was a bit conservative, I think, with the couch. Now, as we come over this passage here, something really interesting is going to happen. As the blue paint goes over the white, it will get lit from behind. Thus. Now, that's what the Dutch painters, I think in particular Rembrandt, used to call force. White paint placed to receive a glaze is force. So the force here is lighting that paint from behind. And again, I'm painting it too big with the absolute intention of taking a lot of it back off. This is just ultramarine blue, one colour of blue, and yet because of the variegated underpainting, it seems to be making lots of different subtle blues. I know you're watching paint dry, it's not great TV, but paint takes a while to put on in a methodical way. And glazing really is quite methodical. You don't want to have too much on or too little on. You want a nice even coat. And there's some more force over the painting there. But again, just for the first pass, even though you don't want the foreground to be very blue eventually, just drop that local colour down. Now I'm going to take a piece of rag and just start to uncover some of this luminance, some of this force. Just softly, just softly. This paint is nearly dry now. And you can see I'm getting these lovely crepuscular rays just by cutting back through that glaze layer. And when you see these sort of optical effects in the late 19th century work of good oil painters like John Martin and Turner in the middle of the century, what you're seeing is a use of optics. That's what I'm doing here. I'm using optics just to find the sky effects, the light effects. Now this initial blue is just a provisional layer of paint. That's all it is. It's just enough paint to get us going. I won't labour this one too much. I'll show you what happens next and then I'll close this short demonstration. While the blue is active, this is the very best time to work into it to get transition edges. I'll take an orange oxide now, which of course is the complement to blue. This is just a transparent earth orange. And just start to work in some of these edges. Now I know you're thinking, gosh, that's really strong, Martin. But as I said, the best habit with a glaze is always to use too much, because taking it back off is the art of it. So you need plenty on, so you can do that. These transitional crepuscular rays are already dry, or workably dry at least. There we go. I've got a monitor there, by the way, so when I'm teaching in my studio here, I can just effectively step back without moving from my easel. So if you're wondering why I'm looking to my right, it's just that I want to see how it looks from 3 meters away. You see I'm keeping the brush flat. That's quite important because a flat brush gives you nice control marks. It doesn't dig into the glaze layers. I'll take some zinc white now. For which I'm going to use a clean brush. And zinc white's really good just for dropping down this smokiness. Now it's got a bad reputation for underpainting, of course, because it saponifies, which is a long and boring word, which means it turns into a soap with linseed. But actually, in its intended role for the top of a painting, it's a perfectly good paint, and it's one you should use a lot for this kind of work. These zinc whites, Chinese whites as they were sometimes called in the 19th century, are important to traditional painting. Fingers are great for getting these transitional edges in, by the way. Now you saw how we put some light rays on before, just by cutting through the glaze, but it's also possible to paint them. And if you use both methods I'm doing here, you get a much more variegated sky. I'll feed the zinc white towards that force now, which we placed earlier. Get it milkier and milkier. And the less contrast we have here, it's going to cut this cloud down so it doesn't look like two jaws. I want it to be quite so heavy. Just by changing how the paint works optically, it's very easy to sculpt these clouds. And once you get your eye in for this, it's really easy just to start to build pictures up. I'll take some titanium white, which is really strong white, opaque white, and just where the light is going to be the strongest, off camera, if you will, I'll just start to feed it in slightly. And also the edges of any clouds that are interesting to me. And these are your classical sky painting skills. If you look at the works of, say, Bierstadt or Turner, any of those painters are doing this all the time. And it's a really simple way to improve your landscape painting and also improve your general technique quite quickly. So simple, quick recap. The first thing I did, I checked the painting was dry. That's important. Make sure it's dry. When it's dry, take a standard glaze of your choice. I use 50-50, half alkyd resin, half modern solvent. A very thin layer on there, so it's a couch of viscous, not drippy. Drippy won't work. And then take a big flat brush and paint it a single colour. And that unifies the entire thing with a colour of light. That's important too, I think. Then I took the complement to that colour and just dropped down some half tones. And also rub back into the underpainting here and there. I actually got one last stage to do before I finish, which is to put some darks on. I'm assessing as I'm going. This is a shade of blue, which is black and blue. And just watch how this just starts to build that cloud up. But it's really important that this doesn't go everywhere. You want that underlying softness to still poke through here and there. I'm painting in a very romanticist sense today. That's to say, it's intended to be rather dark and rather threatening. But of course, this would also work really well for different palettes. Just feeding some clouds over the top of these crepuscular rays just here and there. I'll certainly have one there, I think. Just to get a feel of layers of clouds, layers of sky. It's actually very logical, isn't it? Layers of clouds, layers of skies, layers of paint. Oh, that's it. Simple as that. So to recap, dry first, then you put your medium on your couch. Once your couch is on, paint it a single colour. Once that's in place, do not wet your brush again with solvent. Work straight into that. Put down all the colours you need. I put a complement here. You could use other colours, I guess. Then cut back with a rag and sort of build from the back to the front. And don't forget to use your glazes too big so you can cut back into them. That's just simple 5-second demonstrations. I hope you enjoyed that.